In a dramatic city council meeting tonight, the Wellington police chief was fired after being placed on unpaid leave.
He is accused, according to the city attorney, of sexually abusing a woman 2 times, sending inappropriate text messages asking for nude photos while on duty, and then retaliating against that victim and 2 other female employees. But as you'll see, the town still stands by him.
Cop headlocks female employee after being accused for crime.
The Wellington City Council meeting resulting in shouts and accusations between the mayor, attorneys, and community members.
I'm not going to sit here and let you misrepresent. You just did the same thing. It's my turn. Do I get a turn? Do I get a turn?
It's not a victory. I don't feel like a victory at all. I feel like, he got what he deserved, because you shouldn't do that to anybody, period, especially if you're the chief of police. You don't touch anybody.
Police officers are some of the most trusted members of society. We look to them for help and hope. But what happens when those we are supposed to trust turn out to be as bad as the criminals they're supposed to catch? Today, we take a look at one man who crossed the line and got caught in the act. The evidence will shock you and speak for itself, as a cop headlocks female employee after being accused for crime.
In an executive session traditionally held behind closed doors, the chief's attorney asked it to be made public to clear the air.
To the people of Wellington, Utah, Police Chief Rory Bradley was everything that represented law and order. Hardworking, popular, son of another cop, he had the town of 1600 in the palm of his hand. However, behind the facade of respectability lurked some disturbing dark secrets. July 2022, and Bradley faces a host of charges. This once respected officer has had a long fall from grace, with these accusations only the tip of the iceberg. Bradley, 40, faces preliminary charges of misuse of public money, a third-degree felony theft, a Class A misdemeanor, communications fraud, a Class A misdemeanor, and falsification of altering of government records, a Class B misdemeanor. These charges could see Bradley facing prison time and sharing the same cell as the very criminals he's arrested in the past. It came down to overtime. Bradley was accused of claiming for overtime he had never worked, but this was no administration error. If the charges are true, then he also falsified records to get away with his lie. A statement release claimed that defendant used Wellington City equipment, including computer equipment, to make and communicate falsified overtime claims to Wellington City. This was the latest controversy surrounding Chief Bradley, and these charges paint a dark picture of this officer. But what he is accused of doing with a female officer makes for very uncomfortable viewing.
Town attorney John Schindler accuses Bradley of sexually abusing a city employee twice and sending inappropriate text messages beginning in March 2020.
On March 26, 2021, a statement began to circulate that Police Chief Bradley had been taken off duty, stating, effective April 1, 2021, Wellington City Police Chief Rory Bradley will be placed on unpaid administrative leave pending the process of a personal action and active investigation. No additional information regarding this matter is available at this time. He'd been under investigation since December 2020, under a cloud of mystery, as at the time the reason of the suspension had not been made clear. Despite the silence, the town stood behind their chief.
Whatever the accusations against Bradley are, people in Wellington voiced support for the chief Thursday.
I'm not sure what's going on, but I will say that if we lose him as a chief and as a mentor to our kids, it is devastating. And I would hope that we are wise enough to see that.
Things became even more mysterious when a town meeting called to address the matter was delayed.
When the agenda item for Chief Bradley arrived, the city's attorney had this advice.
It would be my request that the council table the matter to the next meeting. There have been some developments.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Rumors of Bradley's misconduct had already begun to circulate before he was even placed on leave. These whispers were dismissed as mere gossip or jealousy, showing the reluctance of the community to question their police chief. The fear of retaliation and the protective cloak of loyalty silenced those who dared to speak out. But in the end, the subject of the investigation was made clear. And even worse, the whole shocking incident was caught on tape. December 8, 2020 would forever alter the perception of Chief Rory Bradley. Bradley. A damning video emerged, capturing Bradley harassing a female colleague.
Video captured December 8th appears to show former Wellington Police Chief Rory Bradley making an obscene gesture toward an employee in City Hall. Moments later, he wraps his arms around her face and neck in a headlock.
Many saw this as abuse of power and a case of someone using their position to engage in inappropriate behavior. One of those was the victim herself, who bravely spoke about what happened.
Speaking out tonight for the very first time, a Wellington City employee who accuses the former police chief of sexual misconduct says she has lived a nightmare.
He's a chief of police. I was scared. I didn't know what to respond or how to respond.
But that was nothing compared to what Bradley put his victim through next.
Later that morning, video also shows the woman walking past Bradley, holding a notepad the former police chief appears to wind up before hitting her on the backside.
But for this victim, this was the last straw.
I didn't know what to do. I looked at him and I said, "You can't do that. That's harassment." I said, "Don't ever touch me again."
The video allowed the victims to break their silence and confront the trauma they endured at the hands of their superior officer, one who should have known better.
You shouldn't do that to anybody, period, especially if you're the chief of police. You don't touch anybody.
The scandal sent shockwaves through the community and the police department, and the video was included with formal complaints put against him that once again showed a predator in action.
The city attorney argues that for months, Bradley sent inappropriate and flirtatious text messages, even asking for nude photos while he was on duty.
The confidence in Chief Bradley's integrity was broken, prompting a further examination of the department's practices, policies, and the wall of silence that protected him. In the wake of the scandal, the police department launched internal investigations into Bradley's alleged misconduct. During the course of the investigation, 2 more victims came forward and filed charges of harassment against their former superior.
Rory Bradley was fired for harassment and retaliation.
And we now know why.
When the city council meeting was held, Bradley remained defiant against the accusations.
Bradley was fired Friday by the city council, of which he is a member.
The text messages were simply to be meant to be fired. That's it. That's all it was meant to be. That's all she knows it to be.
Wellington, once a peaceful town, was now a community grappling with deep divisions. Some rallied behind the victims, demanding accountability and reform, while others clung to the remnants of Chief Bradley's legacy. But during the tense city meetings, the outcome was made clear.
Make a motion to terminate the employment of Rory Bradley.
Terminating a police officer is always a difficult choice, but when the messages Bradley sent to his female colleagues were revealed, it seemed the only sensible course of action to take.
I only take payment in full frontal nudity. Close quote. You acknowledge the authenticity of this text and that it was in fact sent by you.
But still standing defiantly, Bradley had taken action of his own, action that was about to backfire.
Bradley is accused of filing unfounded counter complaints against the alleged victim and 2 other city employees in February.
It seems to me that all this pounding on the table has one purpose, and that purpose is to intimidate you.
He did not win his counterclaims. The legal proceedings saw Chief Rory Bradley finally facing the consequences of his actions. On December 7, 2021, Bradley pleaded guilty to the charges of assault, and with that admission came the possibility of incarceration. This ex-cop got lucky and received 2 sentences of over 200 days, but the sentences were suspended in exchange for 2 years probation. He has also been given a fine of $1,500 that must be paid within 2 years. But he still had his other charges on misuse of public funds and the possibility of sharing a prison with a criminal he may have busted on his watch. His worst fears were realized when Bradley was sentenced to a term of a year in the Carbon County Jail after pleading to the charge of misuse of public funds. But once again, he got lucky, and his jail time was suspended. He was given 24 months of probation, a fine of $1,750, and a restitution in the amount of over $1,600. The aftermath of the scandal spurred and renewed commitment to reform and rebuild trust within the police department. The fall of Police Chief Rory Bradley shattered the illusion of an honorable law enforcement figure, leaving Wellington in turmoil. The video scandal was a wake-up call, exposing the dangers of a culture of silence and the abuse of power. However, the courage of the victims and the community's response also signaled a path towards change, sparking a broader conversation on reform and accountability within law enforcement. The journey towards the town of Wellington's healing and regaining unity is ongoing, as Wellington seeks to rebuild its sense of security and justice, hoping to learn the lesson of the Rory Bradley scandal. This is one officer that eventually paid for his unwanted advances. Tell us what you think of this case in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you can keep up with every case.